This edition of the Ridley Report is brought to you by
nhballoonman.com. I haven't always thought this way. I haven't always been focused on the human rights of questionable people. I once led a demonstration advocating that the authorities should seize Supreme Court Justice Souter's house. Would that have violated his human rights, considering how he helped steal a bunch of houses? Well, maybe not, but I was overplaying my hand in the sense that, government seizure of his house would have been an act of aggression against taxpayers, because the taxpayers would have had to fund that process. Anyway, this may be a little unrelated, except that someone showed up at my protest to counter-protest. And that was Mike Fisher, sort of a Gandhi follower, and he held up a sign that said, "Protect even your enemy from oppression." And I think over time I've come more around to his way of thinking. But if we're going to protect our enemies from oppression, we better darn sure make sure we are protecting people who are less violent than our enemies. Protecting may not be the right word, but standing up for their rights. That's what I'm trying to say. Occupy Wall Street is far less evil and far less violent than the American government. The Ed Brown people were far less evil and far less violent than the government. So if we're going to spend some of our time, as I do, denouncing anti-government violence, we should remember that this is a rare thing. Keep it in perspective. We should be spending a lot more time denouncing the government that's killing hundreds of thousands of people than the stateside violent opposition, which has killed far fewer. This, even if you count certain attacks that may or may not really have been perpetrated by the opposition. You've seen me raise questions and articulate opposition against anti-government violence. You've seen me question members of the Occupy movement over their redistributionist rhetoric. That's something which implies violence down the road. But I do want to make clear that I recognize and support the human rights of both. Of all. I'm urging you to do the same. This edition of the Ridley Report is brought to you by nhballoonman.com, or White H. Marriott for short, featured on the Ridley Report. White makes balloon hats and party animals for your festive event. He also makes it look easy. Deploy him at your next shindig. nhballoonman.com.